Well, actually, the reason we do Russia versus NATO is because we don't want to do Iraq or Afghanistan games, because all of us have been there, and if people want to play that, they can join the U.S. Army and go to fucking Iraq. MilSim West has been there for 7 years. So people don't, they just know it's there. They can go whenever they want. They don't have to look into it. It's not like the first event in America. At our first event in America, there were only like 100 people, because no one knew who the fuck we were. So it wasn't like it was for this, where everybody in Mexico already saw that we're the biggest in the US, and they were like, oh, it's coming down here, great. The first event we had in the US, people were like,
who are they?
Who the fuck are those guys? Right. So it's kind of interesting.
I was about to start something cringy with black sheep stuff. But,
it's so over though. That was years ago. That guy doesn't even do Airsoft anymore. And I don't, I try not to troll other producers anymore. In fact, all the other producers that I know in the US are very nice to me. Just last weekend, I went to an American MilSim game, because I was in Texas. And American MilSim is another promotion in the US. They're one of the bigger promotions, similar to MilSim West. Different style of game, but just as big. And they invited me out for free to play at their game. Yeah, they're very friendly to me. It's very cool.
But that's smart, because as I said, I try to produce some stuff here, and it's super hard. And sometimes people is like jealous. Or
competitive.
It's like, bro, let's make the cake
We're all
better,
doing the same thing.
Bigger, right?
Right.
So let's help us.
It can be like that in the U.S., but right now it's not. It used to be like that 4 years ago when I was trolling Black Sheep, as you mentioned, but it's not now. The main producers there now, we're all very friendly to each other, and things are different than they were 4 years ago, basically.
So we can say we should expect another MilSim West here in Mexico.
Oh yeah, we'll be back. Yeah, nos vemos en el próximo año.
Yeah,
nos vemos en el próximo. That's what we're working on. But no promises, but that's what we're working on. Yeah.
It's okay. Just to get ready, if it's insurgency, I will take a fucking random roll.
I mean, we did. I think the civilian roles are the most fun of that game, because you can disguise your true goals, until the very end. It's like a mystery, right? You make a mystery for everyone else, and they have to figure it out.
That's what the people say in AR. The mission stuff. I was like, bro, no, MilSim West in this presentation is about being a soldier,
right?
Doing boring shit, but
right.
In this case,
if you want to do more specialized stuff, there's the insurgency game, there's less soldiers, and then you have kind of more specialized missions, because you're dealing with civilians, you're dealing with the enemy. So you might have one raid where you're shooting people, but then you might have another raid where you're like not shooting anybody, because you don't want to make the civilians mad at you, but you got to capture this guy. You don't know what he looks like, you know what he sounds like on the phone, he's 5'8", whatever, probably more similar to the types of missions that a lot of the cadre were doing in Iraq or Afghanistan, right? Because the kind of missions we're doing, this is more like a big war between two armies, right?
Exactly.
Which none of us have ever been in. We've only trained for it. We've only trained to fight other armies, but of course all the cadre, we've only fought insurgents.
Yeah,
we've never fought another army. I mean, I guess you could say the Taliban are an army, but not really.
Well, it's not that organized.
Not as organized, and they dress like civilians, and it's a very different situation.
Yes.
So
here, narco stuff is super different.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't do that game here. That'd be a bad choice. I wouldn't do that game in the U.S.
I tried my first MilSim event.
Oh yeah.
I tried, but
people didn't like that.
No, actually, we don't have like that problem. But we have to take some kind of low profile.
Well, actually, the reason we do Russia versus NATO is because we don't want to do Iraq or Afghanistan games, because all of us have been there, and if people want to play that, they can join the U.S. Army and go to fucking Iraq and Afghanistan, and you know what I mean? They do that. I'm not going to help you pretend to do that, but I will pretend to fight the Russians or fight NATO, because that's fun to me, and that's different. I think the main thing that MilSim players maybe don't understand, like a lot of people have these ideas about what MilSim is, but I think most of those people don't actually have real military experience. That's what I see in the U.S. That's why we have the format we do. Where there's cadre who are combat veterans, guys with real experience in the military, be it the U.S. military or the Mexican military or the Russian military, right? Or whether it's a Mexican guy who is in the U.S. military. And we're able to kind of make a more real experience. So if anything, I would say if you're in MilSim to gain rank and status, That's the wrong reason to be into MilSim, because it's the nerdiest thing in the world.
I know, right?
Right. It's such a silly thing. In fact, my friends who used to be Rangers, all the time they say, oh, that's so fucking stupid. And then we talk about it a little and they're like, wait a minute, that's your job? Yeah. You make money doing that? Yeah. Hey man, can I work for you? Yeah, well, like Danny Hassel, the guy on the NATO, he and Avery Kerr, we were in the same battalion together. We were all in 2nd Ranger Battalion.
Okay.
So those are all guys I know that used to be Rangers, and they were like, oh, you do MilSim? And then I was like, yeah, man, you want to come work for me? And they're like, well, wait, I can get paid to go play a game? Yeah. In Mexico? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean,
right. So, if anything, I'd say if the fun of MilSim is just like creating an experience for yourself.
Exactly.
Right? Not having rank or anything like that, because that shit doesn't matter. In the military that shit matters, but it doesn't really matter anywhere else. And MilSim is in the military. MilSim's a hobby. It should be fun for people. They should be enjoying it. And the most important thing about like a position is not the rank, but like whether you're a good leader or not. It doesn't matter what your rank is. If you can't get anybody to follow you, it's meaningless, right? So there's no point in having rank anyway, in a hobby sense, because we all know who's going to be followed, right? I mean, my platoon leader, she didn't have any rank, but people listened to her, so it doesn't matter. I think really the main thing about MilSim is like people are curious about the experience, right? Of a soldier. And so just, always remember, I say if anything, if you're a MilSim club, try and find a soldier or a veteran and get them involved so you can learn from their experience if that's what you're trying to emulate. I mean, the reason we do MilSim West is, do you know what reenactment is?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been doing reenactment since I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And after I got out of the Army, every time I go to reenactment, people would ask me, like, well, you've been over there, you've been in the war, what's it really like? And I'm like, well, if we did this reenactment for 2 days straight, didn't eat very much, walked a long way, right, didn't sleep very much, then you'd start to feel what it's like without people trying to kill you, but still
not yelling you and
still difficult, right? Like no sleep, no food, you know what I mean? Low sleep, low food, lots of walking, that's difficult. So the idea behind MilSim West was to try and share like what is the experience of the infantry, right? La experiencia de infantería. Okay.
So you go back to your home, got all these memories, and they say, oh bro, you remember that kill? You remember that fight?
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, part of the reason we do it this way is because you walk so far to make a mission happen, or you do a recon, then you make a plan, then you walk out there and attack. That makes the fighting more memorable. If you go to a game where you just say on Saturday, you just shoot for 6 or 7 hours, you don't remember all those different shots you took, right? You just remember like, oh, I went to the game, right? But with this, it's like you maybe only shoot like 8 or 10 people the whole weekend, so you remember every one. So, lo siento, mi español es muy malo, but I will improve.
Yeah,
so,
improving.
Yeah. And hopefully by the time I come back here next year, we can do this in Spanish.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, operators, ese fue Josh Warren, Papa Warren. Es el fundador de MilSim West y nos dio estas pequeñas palabras. Punch out.